بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Now, we got to the chapter of purifying oneself after answering the call of nature, after using the bathroom, what we now refer to as using the bathroom, some of the etiquettes and manners relating to that. We got to hadith number 88. عن ابن مسعود رضي الله تعالى عنه قال أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال فأمرني أن آتيه بثلاثة أحجار فوجدت حجرين. So Ibn Mas'ud رضي الله عنه, and Ibn Mas'ud was from the companions who were known for their recitation of the Quran. And the Prophet ﷺ says in a narration, take the Quran from four. One of them is Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And Ibn Mas'ud was from the fuqaha, from the scholars of the companions. And the madhab of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala is largely influenced by the fiqh of Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. Because the students of Ibn Mas'ud and their students, like Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, who was the student of Ibn Mas'ud, and then Hammad ibn Abi Sulaiman, who was the student of Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, who was from the Tabi'een, and then Abu Hanifa, who was from the students of Hammad. So their fiqh was influenced by the madhab of Ibn Mas'ud. And so he says here, radiallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he wanted to use the bathroom, commanded me to bring him 3 stones. And we said, you washing the privates with stones, or what we have today, tissue, is called what? Istijmar. We said it's called istijmar. From jamra, it's called istijmar, using stone. And we said, is using stone or tissue in our case permissible if there is water? Yes. Okay, we said it's allowed. According to which scholar? All of them. There's no disagreement on this issue. Okay, they all agree that using tissue is permissible even if water is available. Yeah? And so, of course, that's not the ideal. There's a difference between what's ideal and what's better, and what's the sunnah, and between what is the bare minimum. Okay, just like, can a person pray dhuhr, just read the Fatiha? Every rak'ah Fatiha, 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 Fatiha. Is that allowed? Salah is valid, but you've missed out a lot of reward. Can I have prayed Maghrib just now, Fatiha, 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 silently? Yes. I could have prayed Maghrib now, silently, all reciting just the Fatiha, and the Salah will be valid, and your Salah will be valid. But still, you've missed out the Sunnah, and that's why people would get upset if I did that. Okay, so there's a difference between what's the bare minimum permissible and between what's recommended. Yeah. So he says, radiallahu anhu, he found him 2 stones only. وَلَمْ أَجِدْ ثَالِثًا فَأَتَيْتُهُ بِرَوْثَةٍ فَأَخَذَهُمَا وَأَلْقَى الرَّوْثَ. So I couldn't find the 3rd stone. The Prophet said, bring me 3 stones, and he only found 2, and brought him a dried piece of dung. Okay, a dried piece of leftovers from animals. And this was, of course, very common then, because the animals, camels and donkeys and so on, would be walking around all over the streets. So he took the 2 stones and threw away the dried piece of dung. Okay, and said, وَقَالَ إِنَّهَا رِكْسٌ أَخْرَجَهُ الْبُخَارِ, and said, this is impure, this is filthy. So he threw it away. Now we have a hadith. I don't know whether we've covered it. The hadith of Salman al-Farisi, yes. If you have the book on page, it's Hadith 84. He says the Prophet ﷺ prohibited us, forbade us to face the Qibla when defecating and urinating, or to clean ourselves using the right hand, or to clean ourselves with less than 3 stones. This is the point. So the Prophet ﷺ prohibited us from using less than 3 stones when cleaning ourselves. And in this hadith he has 2 stones. So Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala and Abu Abdullah Malik ibn Anas rahimahullah, these 2 imams of fiqh, are of the opinion that the minimum of 3 is recommended. It's a sunnah, it's not obligatory. They say why? They say because this hadith of Ibn Mas'ud, he brought him 2 and he didn't say ask for a 3rd. Okay? He didn't ask for a 3rd. The Hanbalis and Shafi'is say he did ask for a 3rd. And that's what it says here at the bottom. وَزَادَ أَحْمَدُ وَالدَّارَ قُطْنِي إِيتِنِي بِغَيْرِهَا. There's another narration with an addition of bring me something else instead. Bring me something other than this. Okay, the 2 imams, Malik and Abu Hanif, considers a weak addition. As for the 2 imams, Ahmad and Shafi'i, they consider this to be a valid addition. And so therefore the bare minimum is 3 stones. And really, in reality, even in terms of purification, less than 3, using less than 3, remember, using less than 3 stones means less than 3 wipes. It doesn't mean 3 necessarily stones, even though usually it will be 3 separate stones. Okay, but the point here is wiping yourself 3 times. Okay, so if a person wipes himself with a tissue, and there's part of the tissue that is clean, and they can hold it in a way that doesn't make them unclean, and they can wipe themselves again, no problem. That's considered a second cleaning. Okay. So anyway, 3, like we said, is the bare minimum according to many of the fuqaha. Like we said, the best is to do the 3, wipe yourself 3 times, and on top of that, wash with water, just to get rid of anything that's remaining, that's left. But the 3, if a person does, for example, washes himself with tissue once, and then washes themselves with water, is that valid? Yeah, it's valid. If washing with just water is valid, then 1 wipe and water is of course valid. Okay. What wouldn't be sufficient is just the 1 wipe and you go. That's not sufficient. Even in terms of cleanliness, that's not clean enough usually. Okay. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال إن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى أن نستنجي بعظم أو روث وقال إنهما لا يطهران. Okay. إنهما لا يطهران. Now, the Prophet ﷺ says here, or he prohibited the use of bone or dung, which is the leftovers, remainders left by animals, that is dry. And he said these 2 things don't purify. Yeah, so these 2 things don't purify in terms of cleanliness. We'll swiftly move through the things that won't apply to us that much. Okay, but this just needs to be known. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم استنزهوا من البول فإن عامة عذاب القبر منه أخرجه الدارقطني وللحاكم أكثر عذاب القبر من البول وهو صحيح الإسناد. This is a very important hadith. Beware of smearing yourselves with urine, because it is the main cause of the punishment of the grave. And in another narration, most of the punishment of the grave is because of being reckless and negligent with regards to cleaning yourself, with regards to urine. Okay, so being easy with allowing urine to sprinkle back onto your clothes and it harming you, and you don't wash yourself properly, and these things are a big problem. And this is why a person, as much as possible, avoids, if you can, always avoid standing whilst urinating, even though it's not haram. However, standing whilst urinating needs to be avoided, especially in our time, because we use the bathroom against solid objects. Okay, and the surface is such that it will bounce back onto our clothing. if it's used like that, if you stand, sometimes you won't feel it. You're wearing trousers or a thobe, for example. You're not going to feel sprinkles of urine coming onto you. But it's a high risk. It's always a high risk. And so a person sits down as much as possible. If the seat is not clean, clean it. Clean the seat and then sit down. Okay, and then sit down and then use the bathroom like that. And in another narration, the Prophet ﷺ walked past two graves. And he said, إِنَّهُمَا لَا يُعَذَّبَانِ. They're being punished. Because Allah told him that they're being punished in the grave. Otherwise the other companions couldn't see. And no one can see someone being punished. So he says, إِنَّهُمَا لَا يُعَذَّبَانِ. They're being punished. وَمَا يُعَذَّبَانِ فِي كَبِيرٍ. And they're not being punished for something big. Meaning it's something big, of course. However, they're not being punished for something which is considered big. If you were to tell someone's being punished in the grave, why do you think he's being punished? You want to say he stole, he fornicated, he backbited, he slandered, he did this. You're not going to think about he didn't clean himself properly after urinating. So it's considered something small. Okay, but it's something big. It is something big. Because purity is a part of Islam, being clean and being pure. One's clothes need to be pure. If your clothes aren't pure, your salah is invalid. And your wudu won't be valid if you haven't made istinja, according to the madhab of Ahmad, rahimahullah, and so on. Okay, and so a person has to be extra careful with that. وعن سراقة بن مالك رضي الله عنه قال علمنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في الخلاء أن نقعد على اليسرى وننصب اليمنى. And the following وعن عيسى ابن يزداد عن أبيه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا بال أحدكم فلينتر ذكره ثلاث مرات. Both these ahadith are not authentic, according to Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar. However, the first one says the Prophet ﷺ taught us when using the bathroom to lean towards the left foot, meaning you lean on the left foot, you put your weight on the left leg and you extend the right leg. And like we said, the authenticity of the hadith is questionable. However, some of the scholars say medically it's good. And Allahu A'lam. Okay, if it's medically a good thing, then that's a good enough reason to do it. Okay, that's a positive enough reason to do it. And the general principles of the Sharia come with doing whatever is medically more recommended. As for this hadith, and like we said, it's questionable. The following hadith is when one of you passes urine, he should push out any remaining in his privates, which means that you forcefully squeeze the privates with any remaining urine out. Now, one, this hadith is not authentic, and two, some of the scholars say this is harmful medically. Okay, the person squeezes their privates, squeezes any remaining urine out, okay, especially forcefully, using force. Some of the scholars say that brings about seles. Yeah? Urine comes out without control. Leakages, urine leakages occur because of that. And it's not harmful. And just thinking of it doesn't seem to be the best thing to do. It's not the most natural thing that a person squeezes themselves like that. However, if there is no harm, then some scholars recommend this. So it would be good to find out. Maybe there's something to look up, or some of you brothers can look this up as well, to see whether it's medically sort of harmful or not necessarily harmful. That would be a good thing to find out. And I'll pass it on to you, inshallah, if I get the information. وعن ابن عباس رضي الله. However, generally speaking, a person needs to complete their urination or complete using the bathroom before they start cleaning themselves. Not you've just about finished urine and urine is still coming out and you start to put your clothes back on and you start to walk around. And no, you need to completely be finished, then clean yourself completely, then after that. All of this is taking extra care when using the bathroom. وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم سأل أهل قباء فقال إن الله يثني عليكم فقالوا إنا نتبع الحجارة الماء. Again, not an authentic hadith. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم asks the residents of Quba, he said, Allah praises you. Okay, Allah praises you. He's questioning them. Why did Allah praise you? So they say, we use water after cleaning ourselves with stone. So they use stone, they clean themselves. The hadith is not authentic, but the meaning is correct. The meaning is correct, that's recommended to clean yourself with tissue, because that lightens the impurity. If you use water immediately, that's not a good idea. Okay, so you lighten the impurity with using tissue, so you don't make direct contact with it, and on top of that, you wash any remaining after sort of effect with water. He moves on to rahimahullah, chapter 8, Bab al-Ghusl wa hukm al-junub, major states of impurity, and someone can be impure with a major state of impurity or a minor one. If you're in a minor state of impurity, you need to make wudu. If you're in a major state of impurity, you need to make ghusl. Okay, you need to make ghusl. عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الماء من الماء. Water is from water. Water is due to water. Okay, water is from water. Meaning, water, if water comes out, in other words, a person has semen coming from their private parts due to intercourse, or due to a wet dream, or whatever else, due to intercourse with one's wife, or a wet dream, these are the two permissible ways of having semen come from the privates. All other ways, of course, fornicating, or masturbating, and so on, they're prohibited ways of making semen come from the privates, but they still require ghusl. Okay, ghusl is still wajib. Al-ma'u min al-ma'. So water requires water. Meaning, if water comes from the privates, you need to use water. Make ghusl. Okay, you make ghusl. And this was the ruling at the beginning of Islam. In the beginning, if a person had intercourse with their wife, without ejaculating, without anything coming outside of their privates, from their privates, any liquid being released, no ghusl was required. They didn't need to make ghusl. Then that was replaced by the following hadith. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا جلس بين شعبها الأربع ثم جهدها فقد وجب الغسل وزاد مسلم وإن لم ينزل. So this hadith abrogates the previous hadith. Okay, it abrogates the previous hadith.
What about the other ways which like liquid would come out? Like, because I know some people that have that problem whereby some water comes out, but they don't know whether they should do ghusl or wudu for that.
No other liquid requires ghusl.
So it's just
only semen, only mani.
What if a bit comes out and like they can feel it? So should they just do istinja again?
No, but why did it come out?
Some people have that. I don't know what it's called. Some medical condition.
If it's a medical condition, it just requires wudu. Yeah. So you wash the privates and you make wudu.
Okay.
If it's a medical condition, we'll come on to the conditions of mani. This to come out, it needs to come out altogether. If it's dripping out, okay, drip by drip, that's not a mani coming out. It doesn't require, that's nothing. Okay, Allahu A'lam what that is, maybe it's an illness or whatever else. Okay, that requires washing the privates and making ghusl. Or mani comes from the privates without any desire being felt. I've heard some of them say, if a person lifts heavy objects, maybe those who go to the gym can tell us whether this is true or not. If someone lifts heavy objects, extremely heavy objects, many might come from the privates, like that. Allahu A'lam if that's something that happens, or if that's something that's common or known. But the point is, if that happens, it doesn't require ghusl, because it doesn't come with desire. It doesn't come with desire. Or whatever other reason, some of them said due to extreme cold, many might come from the privates. If that happens, again, it doesn't require ghusl, because it's not with desire. Okay. And there's a difference between two types of liquid. We'll come on to the other one in a minute, which comes from desire as well, but it's slightly different. So do we understand this hadith abrogates the previous one? Now, the Prophet ﷺ says, if one of you sits between the four parts of a woman, four parts being her arms and legs, okay, even though this is explicit and graphic, and has intercourse with her, i.e. penetration occurs, then ghusl is wajib. So now the moment a person penetrates his wife, ghusl becomes wajib immediately. Then he says, Muslim added, even if he does not ejaculate, وَإِن لَمْ يُنزِلْ, even if nothing comes from the privates. Okay, so a person, the moment they have intercourse with their wives, ghusl is wajib for both, immediately. And if it's in Ramadan and they have intercourse, then ghusl is wajib, and on top of that the fast is invalid, so they have to repeat it, and on top of that they need to expiate, the expiation. Okay, of freeing one slave, otherwise fasting 2 consecutive months, otherwise feeding 60 people. And so this is the condition. Also, all the rulings of zina and of ghusl and intercourse and so on, lots of rulings apply. All the rulings apply the moment intercourse is had. Okay, and what is considered intercourse? The part of the male private, if it enters the male private, the part that is circumcised, you'll see the small head. The small head of it, the part that is circumcised, it's like a ring part. I know this is biology is turned into biology lesson, but it's still important to know. Mere contact with the privates of one's wife doesn't require ghusl. Your privates touch her privates, doesn't require ghusl. Okay, if entrance happens, penetration, this ring part is into the privates, that's when ghusl becomes wajib, and that's when the fast becomes invalid, and that's when all the other rulings apply. Okay. Even if nothing comes out from the privates. Okay. وَإِن لَمْ يُنزِلْ. And so this abrogates the hadith which is before. وعن أم سلمة رضي الله عنها أن أم سليم وهي امرأة أبي طلحة قالت يا رسول الله إن الله لا يستحي من الحق. Sulaym رضي الله عنها, she went to the Prophet ﷺ and said, O Messenger of Allah, Allah doesn't shy away from the truth. Because she wants to say something that is awkward for her and it's a bit embarrassing. So she introduced her question by saying Allah doesn't shy away from the truth. Okay. هل على المرأة الغسل إذا احتلمت? Is ghusl wajib upon a woman if she has a wet dream? He said yes. إذا هي رأت الماء. قال نعم إذا رأت الماء. He said yes if she sees the liquid. And even though it's less common in women, but they also ejaculate and have many come from their privates as well, out of desire, due to desire. And they might have a wet dream also. And so if that happens, the same ruling applies. Ghusl is wajib. Let's say someone has a wet dream and sees liquid in the morning, mani. However, they don't remember seeing anything in their dream. Because a wet dream, the whole point of it is that you see something in your dream, sexually related, then mani comes from that, from the privates after that. Let's say you don't remember seeing anything. You don't remember seeing anything, but the water is there, mani is there. Do you require ghusl or do you don't require ghusl? You require ghusl, because the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا رَأَتِ الْمَاءِ, if she sees the water. So the ruling applies when we see the water. When you see the liquid, ruling applies. Let's say a person had a dream, sexually related, and he remembers the dream very well, but in the morning, he sees no liquid, no mani. Does he require ghusl? No ghusl. Because remember, the ruling applies with water only, the liquid. إِذَا رَأَتِ الْمَاءِ. If she sees water. Do you see the water? Yes, ghusl. You don't see water? No ghusl. Doesn't matter what you saw in your dream. Okay? Doesn't matter what you saw in your dream. Ghusl is required based on the liquid. That's what matters. And it needs to be mani. It needs to be actual mani. Because sometimes it could be something else. Okay, it might even be urine. It might even be madhi. Okay, another liquid which is a lot lighter and thinner. Okay, and so a person needs to, and usually mani with a wet dream, it comes out the moment you wake up. Just as you wake up, mani will come out. And so usually you'll be able to distinguish. Usually it's known. However, generally speaking, like we said, the ruling applies with regards to liquid, not anything else. وعن أنس رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في المرأة ترى في منامها ما يرى الرجل قال تغتسل. So the Prophet ﷺ said about a woman who experienced ejaculation during sleep, just the way a man does. The Prophet ﷺ said she needs to make ghusl. Okay, ghusl. Just like what we just spoke about now. So Sulaym, Salama رضي الله عنها said, وهل يكون هذا؟ قال نعم فمن أين يكون الشبه. So she said, does this happen to a woman as well? A woman gets a wet dream as well? He said, yes. Where does the resemblance of a child come from then? Okay, so it's as though that when the liquids combine from the man and the woman, that's what brings about the resemblance. To be honest, I don't know the biology behind this, but from the words of the scholars, I gather that the liquids, if they're combined and come together, that's where the resemblance comes from. Really, it's something to know. It's a simple biology, but unfortunately I don't know it. وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يغتسل من أربع. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, will end with this one inshallah, we'll end with this one and the one afterwards. Used to make ghusl from 4 things. Okay? من الجنابة, from major states of impurity, from sexual intercourse. ويوم الجمعة, and he used to make ghusl on Friday. ومن الحجامة, and from cupping. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he had hijama done, he would make ghusl. And finally, ومن غسل الميت, and from washing a dead body. Washing a dead body, he would make ghusl as well. صححه ابن خزيمة. Ibn Khuzaymah considers this authentic, and others consider this weak. For the first, it's wajib. For the second, and third, and fourth, it's a sunnah. Okay. For the first, it's wajib. As for Friday ghusl, it's a sunnah. And we'll come on to it next week, the details of why it's a sunnah, and what the scholars rahmatullahi alayhim say about ghusl Jum'ah. And it's a sunnah after hijama, and it's a sunnah when washing a dead body. Well, it's a sunnah to make ghusl after washing a dead body. It's not obligatory, but it's a sunnah, it's recommended. Then the final hadith, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه في قصة ثمامة بن أثال عندما أسلم وأمره النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن يغتسل. Okay, so the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم commanded Thumama ibn Uthal to make ghusl when he became Muslim. When he became Muslim, he commanded him to make ghusl. The fact that a person enters Islam, according to Ahmad and Malik, requires ghusl. If you become Muslim, ghusl is wajib straight away. Usually you need to make ghusl anyway, because the one who becomes Muslim will usually have had intercourse, or have had a wet dream, or along those lines. They will be in a state of janaba anyway, and so they will need to require to make ghusl anyway. But let's assume someone didn't have intercourse, no wet dream, no anything like that, which is very rare unless they become Muslim very early in their life. In which case, ghusl is still better. Ghusl is still needed for them. Better, we say better, because these hadith aren't 100% clear cut on saying it's wajib. However, following on Malik and Ahmad, a person is told to make ghusl if they become Muslim. We'll cut it there. The next hadith is the Prophet ﷺ says the Friday ghusl is a wajib upon every Muslim. Okay, we'll come on to that next week inshallah. We'll turn to the comprehensive book, take some hadith, and we'll end it there inshallah. We got to hadith 1258, page 466, for those following with the book. عن عبد الله بن عمرو بن العاص رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من الكبائر شتم الرجل والديه. From the major sins is that a person swears, reviles his own parents. قيل وهل يسب الرجل والديه. So the companion said, would a man swear at his own parents? Who in the world would swear at their own parents? SubhanAllah, we might now consider that, oh okay, that's normal, swearing at someone's parents, cursing someone's parents, raising your voice at someone's parents. That's unheard of, SubhanAllah. But now it's no longer, that kind of question no longer is applicable. Yeah, of course people curse their parents. That happens all the time. Yeah, we know it's not good, but it happens all the time. Wallahu al-musta'an. So anyways, the Prophet ﷺ said, نعم يسب أبا الرجل فيسب أباه ويسب أمه فيسب أمه. The Prophet ﷺ said, yes, someone can curse his parents. How? You curse someone else's father, they curse your father back. You curse his mother, and they curse your mother back. And this principle is very important. That a person doesn't do something that results in a reaction, a negative reaction. Okay. You, for example, we mock another person's religion. What are they going to do? They're going to say nice things about us. They're going to mock our religion. وَلَا تَسُبُّوا الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَيَسُبُّوا اللَّهَ عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Don't curse those who call upon other than Allah, those who are not Muslim. Why? So that otherwise they will curse Allah without knowledge. So you have now caused them to curse Allah. You've caused them to curse Allah's religion. And so this is an important principle. A person doesn't say or do something which brings about a reaction. So we have to be wise when dealing with things. Mocking usually has no benefit. Usually. Mocking another person or their beliefs or their religion usually is not going to bring about any good anyway. And so if a person wants to speak the truth about something or clarify the falsehood about something, mocking doesn't usually do it. Okay, if a person, someone makes a mistake, someone has certain beliefs, someone follows a certain religion, that is clearly false. Clearly a false religion. But if you mock, who in the world has been convinced after being mocked? It's very unlikely. In fact, your mocking them will more likely make it more difficult for them to accept the truth. So you've pushed them away further. Okay? Or arrogantly responding to a person, arrogantly behaving to someone's mistake, again, pushes these away. Yeah. No one looks down or laughs at another person and the person thinks, yes, Jazakallah khair for the advice, I'm going to follow what you're saying now. Of course they're not going to follow your advice or what you're saying. Yeah, so it's important to be smart when dealing with things. If you know you're going to get a reaction, a negative reaction, find another way. Do something in a different way. Yeah? Okay. وعن أبي أيوب رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يحل لمسلم أن يهجر أخاه فوق 3 ليال يلتقيان فيعرض هذا ويعرض هذا وخيرهما الذي يبدأ بالسلام متفق عليه. This hadith is agreed upon by Bukhari and Muslim. Now, here, the Prophet ﷺ says, it's not permissible for a Muslim to avoid his brother for more than 3 nights. Okay, for more than 3 nights. When they meet, this one turns away, and this one turns away. So for more than 3 nights, you ignore your brother or a sister. You ignore them, or a family member, and so on. You ignore them for 3 days without speaking. And when you meet, you turn away. وَخَيْرُهُمَا, and the best of them, best of the two, is the one that begins with the salam. This is why the majority of scholars say, if you say the salam, if you say assalamu alaikum, then that's the bare minimum. You've done the bare minimum. Because of this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, and the best of them is the one who begins with the salam. Some of the scholars of tahqiq give a very strong opinion with strong reasoning. They say, cutting off or returning back to the normal state is when you have no longer cut them off, no longer ignored them. So for example, let's say 2 brothers used to be as close to each other as blood brothers, always together, always this and so on. Then they cut off each other. And on the 3rd day, one of them says, Assalamu alaikum, or on text AA. And the second one responds, WS, and that's it. That's not sufficient to say, okay, that's it, they've said salam, that's enough. Therefore they don't. Okay, some of the scholars say, no, you need to do more than that, because your relationship before was a lot bigger. Well, you're saying salam alaikum wa rahmatullah means nothing compared to what you were like before. Okay. And so this is something to pay attention to. Yes, because the narration saying salam alaikum is the key thing here. So at least the bare minimum is to say salam alaikum. And salam alaikum will usually ease things a little bit, cut down the tension a little bit. Okay, salam alaikum wa rahmatullah. Sometimes after a big problem, you can't expect people to return back to exactly the same way. It's difficult. A massive dispute happens, they're not going to be as close as maybe they were before. If they do, that's better. Jazakumullahu khayran. But it's difficult to expect it from people. It's not easy. However, the bare minimum, like we said, a person says Assalamu alaikum, and you need to be as much as possible back to the way you were before. Okay? So family members, for example, which is even bigger and more important and more dangerous. Yes, you say Assalamu alaikum, and also you do some additional things that are similar in nature to what used to happen before. You used to visit each other's houses every week. Okay, visit sometimes at least. Okay, visit sometimes. You used to exchange gifts regularly. Give some kind of gift. It doesn't require much. Yeah? It doesn't require much. No one's asking you to change your heart. If you're irritated and you're angry at someone, if you can change that, that's better. And the Muslim who is concerned about the akhirah will change that. And let the matters of the dunya, and they're easy. But for some people it can be hard. And if that's the case, then at the very least do these things that don't require much effort. But bring a gift, what's the difficulty? Bring their kids a gift. Okay, visit the house, send some food. You're going to make some food anyway, make a bit more, send food. Don't eat with them, okay, no problem. But send some food over. Okay. The point is, 3 nights is the maximum. And this applies to one's wife as well. This applies to one's wife. Even if a person claims, no, I'm punishing her, or I'm educating her, or this, 3 nights is the maximum when it comes to speech. When it comes to speech, 3 nights is the maximum. Other than speech, it can be longer than that. Okay, such as a person out of a big mistake that his wife has done and wants to set things straight, so doesn't have intercourse with her for a month. It's going to be a problem for him anyway. But let's assume he's angry and he's capable of controlling himself, and he says 1 whole month, or 2 months, or 3 months. It says that this is it. That's different. So the speech, saying Assalamu alaikum and verbal speech, 3 days is the limit, even for between husband and wife. Okay. وعن جابر رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كل معروف صدقة. وعن أبي ذر رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا ولو أن تلقى أخاك بوجه طلق. So 2 hadith. In one, the Prophet ﷺ says, every act of goodness is a sadaqah, is a charity. And in the following hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, don't consider any act of goodness insignificant. Even if it's meeting your brother with a cheerful face. Every act of goodness is a sadaqah. Every act of goodness is a reward. And in one narration, even you putting a morsel of food in your wife's mouth is a sadaqah, is a reward. Something small and something simple shouldn't be belittled. There's reward in it, and it could be huge reward. And as Ibn al-Mubarak says, رُبَّ عَمَلٍ صَغِيرٍ تُعَظِّمُهُ النِّيَّةِ. Maybe a tiny small deed is made huge with a pure intention, with a good intention. And so small deeds are not to be belittled. Never does a person belittle small deeds. Also, never does a person belittle the small deeds of other people. This is very important, and I think more important in our time. Some people, for example, or a person, you don't like some of the things they do. But they're doing lots of good deeds, lots of good things. good da'wah and spending wealth and time into doing good things. Alhamdulillah. Don't criticize. Don't put people down and you say, what's this going to do? There's more important things to do than this. Okay. What's the point in doing that? That's not important. Okay, all you do is this and this. Okay, alhamdulillah, no problem. They're benefiting one person, but better than nothing. Okay, he's benefiting 2 people, 3 people, bringing some kind of benefit to the community, some kind of reward. That's a good thing. It's not to be criticized. We have a bad habit in the Muslim community, putting each other down. You're not doing this well, you're not doing... Okay, they're not doing this well, fine, but they're doing this well. Okay, maybe this is not so great, they can improve this, but they're doing this well. And this is important to keep in mind. And this is a person who's just. Someone who's unjust will just criticize if they disagree with someone or they don't like someone. Criticize, criticize, criticize. That's all there is. Yeah, people have good in them. Az-Zamakhshari rahimahullah was a Mu'tazili, from the Mu'tazila. One of the most refuted sects in the religion. And still the scholars of Islam throughout history until today use his works in tafsir and use his works in Arabic. So they don't ignore all of his good deeds. Al-Bukhari rahimahullah narrated from some narrators who are Shia. Can you believe that? A Shi'i. It's as bad as it gets. And he narrated from them in his books of Hadith. Why? Because these many mistakes that they made, and how many mistakes the Shia have? Endless mistakes. And endless errors and things that possibly take one out of the fold of Islam. And yet he narrated a hadith from them. The Khawarij also. Look at what they have, and still Al-Bukhari narrates from them. Unless you want to criticize Al-Bukhari as well. Say he's wrong as well. Who's right then? For here this is important to understand. Yes, a person may have mistakes, a person may have faults, but if they're doing good, especially in our climate and situation, in the UK, are we in authority? Are the Muslims leading the country, implementing the Sunnah across the... No, of course not. We're in a position of weakness. So any kind of good that someone is contributing, okay, it shouldn't be, at the very least, it shouldn't be criticized and attacked and so on. This is important to keep in mind. No doubt, wisdom is needed. Sometimes a person needs to act a certain way, sometimes a certain way. It will differ based on the situation and based on who. We can't give everyone the same ruling. We can't give one group, okay, that has, or one person that makes 1 or 2 small mistakes and compare them to Qadianis and say, put them on the same boat. No, we have to of course distinguish. These lot are completely off the planet, more than just across the line. Whereas others, a person needs to think. So a person of course needs to think, and this is important to understand, that a person needs to be fair in the way they deal, in the way they judge. You have to be fair. Everyone has to be fair. And this is why when Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah was asked about the Sufis, he said rahimahullah, مِنْهُمْ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِ وَمِنْهُمْ مُقْتَصِدٌ وَمِنْهُمْ سَابِقٌ بِالْخَيْرَاتِ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. From them is the one who oppresses himself. And they're the majority in our time, unfortunately. And from them are those who are in between. They mix good and bad. And they're a smaller number in our time. وَمِنْهُمْ سَابِقٌ بِالْخَيْرَاتِ. And from them are those who race to do good. Meaning they're good, they're upon goodness. And there are some Sufis, even though they're fewer and fewer as time goes, and they're less in our time, very few, who are firm upon the Sunnah, strong upon the Sunnah, and have strong knowledge of fiqh, and have understanding of the religion. And they're known, okay? And they do exist. Yes, they're small in number, and they're not many, but they exist. And in fact, I was reading a book, I recall, by one of the shuyukh, and he was very firm on rejecting anything that was not authentic, and anything that wasn't a sunnah, and anything that wasn't valid in terms of practice and so on. And so I thought, this person is from the leaders of Ahl al-Hadith, if he's like this. Then I find out later he's a Sufi. Okay, and so they do exist. They might be a minority, and they do exist. Now, of course, when we hear criticisms of the Sufis and so on, it's not a generalization. It's the vast majority in our time. I believe, Allahu A'lam. And Shaykh Abdul Aziz ibn Abdullah ibn Baz, rahimahullah, was asked about this statement of Ibn Taymiyyah about the Sufis. And he said, is it right, is this correct statement to say that some of them are, is it correct to say that not all of them are like this? He said, yes, that's my opinion. Yes, that's my opinion. And so he was fair. Okay, so he was fair with judgment. If someone is truthful, okay, fine, they do this or they have that and so. But if someone is, generally speaking, following the Sunnah and following the rulings of the Sharia and not introducing into the religion things that are not known, etc., then the person has to be fair. SubhanAllah, we're going to change the truth just because we don't like them. The person's going to change the reality just because you don't like the title or the name or so on. That's not fair, and it's not the way the Salaf used to be, rahmatullahi alayhi. Of course, that's not belittling some of the major things that some groups do. Doesn't mean that what they're doing is okay. That's not the point. And the one who wants the truth and knows the truth can see clearly what's false and what's not false. So that's not the point, but the point is being fair. The point is being fair. And this is important to keep in mind. وعنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا طبخت مرقة فأكثر ماءها وتعاهد جيرانك أخرجه مسلم. When you make some soup, increase its water and keep your neighbors in mind. And this is a simple hadith. Okay, when you're making food, keep your neighbors in mind. Keep your neighbors in mind and make food for them. And this is important to keep in mind, especially in a time where everyone keeps themselves to themselves. Everyone keeps themselves. You don't know who your neighbors are. The person next door, you don't know who they are. Maybe you hear their voices all the time through the walls, but you still don't know who they are, what their name is. Sometimes they don't even know what they look like. If you saw them outside, you wouldn't know it's them. Okay, and so that's something to, to keep in mind, and try as much as possible to take seriously. Especially in Ramadan, for example, we make lots of food, and food stays left over. If it's going to stay left over anyway, give it to the neighbors. Pass some food to the neighbors. Especially if you're in a Muslim community, it's easy. They all know it's Ramadan, it's this and that. It's a kind gesture. And if they're not Muslim, you can explain to them. You say it's Ramadan and we're doing this and so on, and we fast, etc. And at least they see some goodness from the Muslims. Wallahu a'lam, sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi.